otherwise it will remove you from the meeting. Okay. Okay, so let's start this introduction to AI and data science course. Okay, before starting this, one thing to tell you that most of you are worried about the software, right? Which software we will need for this particular course, and I mean which software to be installed. So for first day, see, we can do everything on the this thing cloud, so no need to install anything, right? Apart from that, obviously we will require the software, so that I'll be showing you in this particular session, and how to download that and how to install. But we will not waste our time in downloading and installing all those stuff. And already having the my recorded video lecture for that one. It's hardly for 5 minutes, so that link I will share to all of you, and you can later on you can install it. But whatever stuff we'll be practicing on the cloud, it will be exactly similar. It will be exactly similar to the thing which we'll be doing on our local machine. I think somebody is joining. Just wait. Okay, so yeah, so let's start. Before starting with the software description and everything, this is a one small session. I mean, this particular session will give you the introduction, and it's a very very important session. And from this particular session, a lot of things will be clear to all of you, like the difference between the current technologies which booming over there, like data science, data engineer, then artificial intelligence, then deep learning, machine learning. So all these basically the terminologies which are present currently in the market. So we will come to know the differences about them and what things are there in that particular technology. Apart from that, why we are learning this particular course and why there is a huge demand in data science field. So that also will come to understand. Okay. Now to understand this, I always give one very simple example, so that from this particular basic example, the whole concept will be clear to all of you. So the example is like this. Let's say, suppose I am having one a shop, right, and where customers daily visit to my shop. Okay, and I am facing one problem from last, let's say, 1 year or past 6 months, that from, let's say, from the last 1 year, that my revenue is not generated the kind which I am expecting, and I want to increase my revenue. And so for that purpose, I want to increase my sales. So somehow I want to increase my sales so that my revenue will be increased. And that problem I'm facing, but I'm not able to figure out, right? So as a owner, what I'll do, I'll try to approach some data scientist, and I'll try to give my problem to the data scientist. I'll discuss with him, and then probably the data scientist may be able to give some solutions so that I can deploy those strategies. And based on that, I may figure out what the problem is there in my shop. Okay. So you may can consider that as a shop or a mall, right, where the many customers daily keep visiting. So this thing you can consider, and then we will going to observe some of the samples, and then we will going to go in the deep so that we can do the analysis, and what basis we can just figure out this particular problem. So the question is like this: suppose you have a shop or mall, let's say, and you want to increase its sales, which in turn will increase the profitability. So what you will going to do? Okay, so what we will going to do, we will going to approach the data scientist, and we will tell him that this particular problem we are facing. So in our shop or mall, like this, daily customers, they keep visiting, and they do the purchasing and all, right? Few may not be going to purchase anything. They just no, they just roam here and there, and they just avail the facility of the mall, and they will live from that particular mall. So like these scenarios are there, but anyway, the many customers, they keep visiting daily our mall or shop, and then depending on that, we must have the record. We must have the record of the people. Then only the data can be analyzed. If you don't have the data, then there is no question of analyzing that particular data. So first of all, we must have the record of the data. If you don't have the record, then definitely the data scientists people, they will guide you how you can start collecting the data, right? So unless until the data is collected, we cannot have any kind of analysis on that one. So this is a scenario now currently, okay, for our mall or shop. Now what we will do, so initially from all the customers which keep on visiting to our mall, okay, what we will do, we will going to divide them into two basic categories, okay, based on certain criteria. Okay, few customers may be satisfied, okay. So we will going to divide them based on the loyalty and the satisfaction. So few customers will be loyal and few customers are highly satisfied. Okay, so based on this loyalty means what, the few customers will be loyal because they always want to purchase from our shop or our mall only, right? As a owner, the owner will always know who are the loyal to our shop, right? So we can and also who are those, the customer who are basically the satisfied customer. So the loyal customer will always going to buy from our shop. The satisfied customer will always be satisfied with our services and everything. So let's say we basically will going to divide the entire, let's say we are having 1000 customers record, or let's say 10,000 customer records. From that particular record of the customers, we will just going to have the division between these two parts. One is the satisfied group and the second is the loyalty group. Okay, so only these two basic group we will going to divide. So what we have done actually, out of all those customers which keep visiting, which we have the record, we just divided into two basic group. That is, one is the satisfied group and the second one is the loyalty group. Now we will dig down more deep into these groups so that we can find out some more details about these groups, and then we can find out what strategies we can deploy. Okay, now what? So how to serve? See why we divided these into two groups. See, normally we divide into different groups so that to one particular group we can deploy certain different strategies. To other group we can deploy certain different strategies, right? So that we can serve them in a more better way. If to overall customer we will going to deploy only one strategy, then maybe there is a problem. There is some issue that few customer will not going to like, right? So we can divide them into groups, and then depending on that group we can deploy certain strategies so that we can serve them in a more better way. That will be also helpful for the owner and the staff who are present in that particular mall. So this is what we have divided into two groups so that we can serve them in a more better way. Now this is one graph. This is called as a scatter plot, which we'll be learning in this particular course. So suppose we have the large amount of data and we will going to plot it. If you see here, we are having two axes. One is loyalty versus satisfaction. So we have plotted this entire data, loyalty versus satisfaction. This is the x-axis, this is satisfaction. So if you go from left to right, satisfaction will increase. If you go from down to top, right, your loyalty will increase. So if you're going to plot this graph, and what you are observing, that few data points which are situated near this particular point, that is here 0 will be there, and a few data cluster, I mean this is one cluster and this is the second cluster. If you can observe this is one group, so this is the second group. So the second cluster which is situated far from this particular 0, and from the loyalty axis also towards the higher side. So we can say this particular group is highly satisfied as well as highly loyal. Okay, so loyalty is also very high for this particular cluster, and the satisfaction is also very high. Whereas if you see this particular cluster where few data points are there, which we can see that these are having very low satisfaction as well as low loyalty. So from just plotting of this particular graph from this group, what we can understand that there are two clusters. One group is of highly loyal and highly satisfied group, and second group is having a low satisfaction as well as low loyalty. So this thing is coming out from this particular graph. So like this, there are so many several graphs are there by which we can directly plot it, and After plotting it, a lot of analysis can be done directly from the graph only. So this is called as a scatter plot. If we have the data, we can plot the scatter plot, and from that scatter plot, a lot of stuff can be known. So definitely all these things we'll be doing later on in this particular course. In the visualization, all the graphs will be studied. So right now, just keep one thing in mind, that what we have done, we have divided into two different groups, all the customers, and then we plotted between those two, loyalty versus satisfaction. And what we are observing that there are two clusters. One cluster is towards the low loyalty and low satisfaction side, and one cluster is towards the higher loyalty and higher satisfaction side. Okay. So now from the graph, we can circle these two clusters, and it's very clear that if this particular group is having very low satisfaction, very low loyalty, just try to ignore this particular group right now. What we can do, we can focus on this particular group. So if they are highly satisfied and highly loyal, so let's try to focus on this particular group to increase our sales, which in turn will going to increase our revenue. Okay. So like this, we can have these two clusters. So one thing is clear, that which the group which was there towards this particular zero, right? It was having low loyalty, low satisfaction, which is marked in the black color, right? And the second group, which is the cluster, it is marked in the blue color. So which is having what, high satisfaction because it's towards the higher side of the satisfaction, and high loyalty because it's towards the higher side of the loyalty, this particular group. So what we observe that in this group also some more details are hidden. So in this particular group also some more details are hidden. So right now we are not focusing on this particular part because this is a low loyalty and low satisfaction group. So we are not focusing on this particular part. In fact, we are focusing on this particular part where we will going to deploy certain strategies. So we can simply ignore this particular part. Now toward this particular group, this cluster, what we are observing that in this also there are three different kinds of customers we can observe, so which are marked in the green color, blue color, and yellow color. So depending on certain strategy, certain analysis. So what are those groups? For example, there will be few customers who are really fans. Okay, they are fans of our mall, and whenever they come, they will definitely going to mall. They are just mad about our mall. Okay, so they are fans. Second group is, one group is supporter. They sometimes buy, they give support to our mod, right? So they are called as the supporters. And the third group is the roamers, which are loyal, very loyal. They definitely always they visit our mall, they roam here and there, but they don't buy anything, right? They just roam here and there, and they just avail the facilities of the mall, right? They might be coming for internet purpose, or maybe we are having better facility of sitting arrangement and everything, right? They just like to roam here and there, and then just they just leave from our mall and they don't buy anything. So there can be this kind of category who are called as the roamers, but there are some supporters who definitely they will going to buy, okay, after some period of time. So those are the supporters. So the fans will always visit our mall, and then they're definitely going to buy from our mall. So there are three different categories which we can observe in the second group. The first group, which was there towards the low loyalty and low satisfaction side, we can simply eliminate them. Okay, we are focusing now on this particular cluster where we are finding that there are three different classes of the customers are present. Okay, now what we can have. So here we can think of that how we can convert, what strategies will be required to convert these supporters, some of these supporters, to the fans. Okay, what we can do, why they are just the supporters, why they are not the fans, what different strategies we can deploy so that we can make them more happy, so that they can become what, fans. Similarly, what different strategies we can deploy to catch these roamers and then to convert them to become the fans. So if by somehow, by do applying certain strategies, if by somehow we are able to convert few supporters to the fans, similarly few roamers to the fans, then definitely we will going to achieve some more sales, and which in turn will going to increase the our revenue also. See, in the earlier days, if you observe the Colgate toothpaste, okay, the tube which is there, right? So in let's say before 10 years or 15 years, let's say before 10 years only, the mouth of that particular tube was not so large. It was the circumference was very small, right? So very small amount of paste used to come out. So somebody might have suggested that if you want to increase your revenue, if you want to increase your sales, what you can do, you just increase the circumference of your mouth of that particular tube, so that whenever somebody will press that paste or the tube, more paste will come out, and in turn it will no, it will get finished more quick, and then in turn which will going, I mean, those people will again going to buy the paste, and it may increase your sales. So some even very small strategy can be deployed, and that may result in a huge amount of sales. So that is was very simple example. So similarly here also, we will have to first find out what difficulties are being faced by the supporters and the roamers, right? And why they are not the fans. So what we can do, so that we can convert some of the supporters or the roamers to the fans category. Okay, so first let's observe the supporters. So from the supporters point of view, let's go, we will going to analyze, right? And all these questions will be asking, and we will be analyzing also, we'll be asking to the owners also, and we'll be observing over there what different facilities they are having, why these people are not the fans, right? What different problem they are facing. We can have the survey, right? We can get the feedback and all. So all these things are there for a collection of data purposes, only for the analysis purposes. Okay. So let's say one. So here I'll be listing out few very basic reasons why supporters are not the fans. There might be several reasons. I'm just giving the example in a very simple way so that all of you can understand it. Okay. So let's say one reason can be like whenever somebody buy anything, right, and then whenever they go to pay the bill, they just simply observe there is a long queue. Okay, very long queue, and many people don't like the long queue. So for that simply because of that reason, they also don't tend to buy anything, right? Because if they will buy, then again they will have to wait in the queue for the long time. So that can be one of the reason why many people they don't buy. They simply just, even though they like the goods, but if they will buy, then they think about the long queues. So what we can do for that particular stuff, we can have more counters during the rush hour, right? We can increase the counters if it's not possible, depending on the our infrastructure, right? So if the rush is too much, we can serve them in a better way. If we can increase the counter, that strategies can be deployed. If you see here one more example, one more picture, see this particular person, he might be supporters, right? He might be supporters, and he whenever he comes, he buys. But see what he are observing, that there is a long queue and he's getting bored. It's appeared from the image only that he's just waiting to run away from this particular queue, right? The moment one or two customer will go, and then he will also leave from the this particular queue. So like this, the scenarios are there. See, I personally also, whenever I go to mall or any shop, I first see the queue. If there are no people are standing over there, or very small queue is there, then only I buy. Otherwise, I also don't like to stand in the queue. So similar kind of situations are there, right? This can be one of the major no problem. The second problem could be like, if you see any rude staff is there, right? And if he's not behaving in a proper way. See, if you go to any particular shop, right, and if the owner is not talking to you properly, or any staff is rude, then even though if they are selling gold over there, you will not go and you will not buy over there. You will never go to that particular shop, right? So that is very important thing and very important aspect of life. We should always be polite to our customer, and all these lessons are being taught to them, right? How to behave with the customers. So definitely that matters a lot. So if this sort of things are there, right, so that should be eliminated properly, right? And all the staffs are proper lectures, and all these things are should be conducted so that they are trained to behave properly with the customers. Okay, so that can be one reason. Then one more obvious reason could be like the rates which are there in your mall, right, or in your shop, which are not reasonable. If you try to compare with the in the vicinity, right, wherever any other shop is there, it's not competitive with the market. So if people will not going to give you more money, right, just simply because your services are good, right? So that should also be reasonable. That could also be one of the factor if you are not keeping reasonable prices in competitive with the other shops or malls. So that could also be one of the reason. One more reason could be like you are not having the varieties, right? Varieties of the product, and people come and they just see one or two varieties. So even that can also be there. Varieties should be there. Second thing, one more reason can be like you don't have the proper stock. Very limited stock is there, right? So whenever anybody wants to buy and he comes and the stock is not there, then also it disappoints the customer. So, I mean, these are the few basic problems associated, right? Which, if we'll simply eliminate them, then definitely the customer will be more happy, and the supporters which are there normally they buy, they will buy. Definitely, they will going to buy, right? And definitely, few customers from the supporters group will definitely will turn into the fans group. Okay. So this was for the supporters point of view, and this could be some problems and which we can try to eliminate them. Similarly, similarly on the point of view of roamers, so what we can do with the roamers, right? Because the roamers they simply visit our shop or mall and they just roam here and there. They will going to avail our facility. They just like to roam, right? And they will not going to buy anything. So what we can do so that these roamers also will start buying, right? So some of the strategies definitely we can deploy for the roamers. So let's see what we can do with the roamers. So for the roamers, what we can do, like we can have the these kind of super sales, big billion day sales, all this kind of where we can have the discounts like 50% sale, 15%, 100%, or many things can be deployed. Similarly, we can give the raffle ticket, right? Based on that, we can give the discount, or we can also give the loyalty card. So loyalty card is like buy nine and get one free, this kind of stuff, right? So that we are just attracting those roamers, right, by giving all these offers. So they will just read, and a few of the roamers will definitely will turn into they will definitely will going to buy. Just they will get attracted towards the this kind of sales offer. So this kind of different strategies we can deploy for the roamers also, and few of the roamers will definitely will get converted to the fans. So what was our motto? Our motto was to increase the revenue by increasing the sales. So by eliminating certain problems which our mall or shop was facing, and we can have a lot of improvement in that particular stuff. So the things which I am discussing, right? The things which I am discussing and which we are analyzing. This is what the data scientists or data analysts will going to do, and the data scientists will going to give all this solution to the owner, right? That please have these all these deploy these all these strategies so that more customers will turn into the fans category, and then definitely it will going to increase your sales. So this is what the basic job of your data scientist. So this one example I gave you of the sales point of view, right? Similar kind of a lot of examples can be there where a data scientist will going to analyze the data, and based on that, first of all he will try to find out the problems, and then how to solve also those particular problems. That also solution will also be given by the data scientist. Okay, so till here, if you want to ask anything, right, and any doubt is there till here, so you can ask me, otherwise we can move ahead.
Yeah, I just would like to ask one thing.
Yeah, yeah.
We eliminated certain group, some group of people. They are not satisfied or not loyal. So, what is
Right,
the
right.
basically reason behind? Instead of finding big problems in the organization, why we are eliminating those?
So actually, in this example I animated, definitely we can dig down more deep into that particular group also, right? Quickly, we wanted some solution, some relief. That's why, for the time being, we just ignored that particular part, okay? And so that we can have some comfort by converting the supporters and roamers to the fans category. But definitely, we don't have to neglect that particular group, and we must be having the feedback and all, and we can look into the problems of those people also, why they are coming in that worst category, right? So definitely there can be some severe problem which may be associated over there. And out of that, even if we see the severe problem are really maybe difficult also to handle, and which cannot happen in the overnight, right? We have to give some time. So one at a time problem can be taken from that one also, and slowly we can try to eliminate that particular problem. Obviously we don't have to ignore. In this example deliberately I ignored so that we can quickly find out some of the solutions, and the main group over there which we can easily convert them into the fans category, that we are going that we are doing in a less amount of time. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
supporter and roamers are kind of low hanging fruits, so we can
Yeah,
get
yeah,
them in.
definitely. I mean, yeah,
Got it.
definitely. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Okay, so let's move ahead then. And let me give you the introduction first about the data science. And on the similar note, then we will also be dealing with the AI. So now, by all these examples, which just now we saw, right, one this particular case study. Now let's try to study about the data science. So data science is a field that uses processes, scientific methodologies, algorithms, and systems to gain knowledge and insights across structured and unstructured data. So whenever we say across structured and unstructured data, structured data means the data which are well defined, right? Like numbers data or the name data, this kind of data which are well defined. And the unstructured data means where we are gathering like images and videos, all this data is there, that is called, that comes under the unstructured category. So the thing is, what data science is a field that uses processes or scientific methodologies, algorithms and systems to gain the knowledge, and main thing, that is insights across the structured and unstructured data. So the ability to take data, to be able to handle it, process it, to extract value from it, to visualize it, to communicate it, it's all data scientist's job, right? We normally say that data scientists people, they just talk to data. Okay, data talks to them, and they can just find out any kind of history or any kind of hidden things from the data just by talking to data. Okay. Data scientists are a group of data analysts who engraves all the required technical skills to solve the complex issues. So not just stop here, even find the problems that may arise in the future and answer those. See, for example, a few of the examples are there, like let's say I'm dealing with the cancer, or let's say the diabetic patient, right? What we can do, we are observing the data of, let's say, past 1 year, 2 years record of the people of their daily routine. And then by analyzing that, we will come to know that after 1 year, or let's say down the period of time of 4 year, these people may face some diabetic issue, right? And so in the advance only, we can give some suggestion, we can give some advices to them, so that they can avoid that particular situation, right? And they will not fall in that particular diabetic condition. So what are the things which may happen in the future, that also can be suggested by the data scientist just by observing the or analyzing the data. So a data scientist has to maintain a balance between all the stuff in a company, which is why the data scientists earn a very high payment. So a decade ago, the data scientists were not in the radar, but at a sudden, the popularity of the data scientists increased, and it changed the way how the businesses are feeling about the data scientist and the big data. So yeah, in this particular 10 years, right, and it has emerged a very booming field. And not only this particular field, along with that, the machine learning, deep learning, and all these fields are booming a lot. And definitely towards the down the line, towards the 15 years, 20 years later, this field will be on top only. And this is the right time. This is the right time to switch in this all this particular field. Otherwise, there is a possibility that no, after 4 5 years, the people will tell you forcefully that please upgrade yourself, so that you will have to forcefully will have to upgrade it. I just request that please mute your no mute yourself, so that just check it. I'm able to hear my own voice. Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah.
A small
Uh,
question here.
in a world,
Yeah, here is small question here.
yes, yes, please, yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
then what is the difference between data scientist and statistician? statistician also does this role of data collection, analyzing, extracting.
Yes, yes, yes. See, so statistician may not be having the tools and everything to represent in a proper way, right? Where the data scientist knows the programming languages, everything. Data scientists will also know the statistics, all the statistics. So statistics is must. We cannot ignore the statistics, right? For data scientists, statistics is a very, very important part, and he must be aware of that statistics. And by using those statistics and everything, data scientist will going to analyze the data, and he will going to put the his conclusions and suggestions. So both are having the common part, that is the statistics is the common part, as well as the statistician will going to give you the statistics, but data scientists can play a larger role, like even the prediction kind of stuff, right? In the future, what may going to happen and what will be the solution for that particular stuff. He may be able to not think about the history also, what has happened and why it was happened. He may be able to give you the reasons based on that one. So a lot of stuff is there for the data scientist, because he is aware of the programming languages and tools, so based on that which he can do the analysis. Okay. Okay, so let's move ahead. So, in a world where 7.7 billion people live and contribute to the creation of 2.5 quintillion bytes of data every day. See, 2.5 quintillion bytes of data every day is being generated. It's a huge, huge, very huge amount of data. So, if you don't know about the quintillion, let's see the number of the zeros for the million is 6, the number of the zeros for quintillion is 18. Okay, so this will be the kind of number. So this much amount of data which is being generated daily, it's a very huge, big amount of data. Okay, so a collection of limited data scientists. We still have very limited collection of data scientists, data engineers, a business analyst is not enough to harness the true potential of this big amount of data. So this subsequently means the opportunities are wide. All aspirants need to do this is possess knowledge of the emerging data science trends in the industry. So there is a huge, huge potential. Okay, now let's see. Now let's see quickly that what is the difference between this artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, and data science quickly, and then we can move ahead. So when we talk about the artificial intelligence, okay, when we talk about the artificial intelligence, if I consider a Venn diagram, so let's say this is my circle, okay, this is my circle. So the end goal of the AI, the end goal of the artificial intelligence is to create a machine which can take the decision by its own, which can behave just like a human being. The way we learn, the way we take the decision, right? In a similar way, the machine should be able to think, machine should be able to take the decision. So AI means what? Enables the machine to think. So without human intervention, the machine will take the decision. This is the main goal of our AI. So the ultimate goal is what? To make such application or the such machine which can think, which can take the decisions, where the human intervention will not be there. Without the human intervention, all these things should machine should be able to do. That's why we hear a lot of terms like AI applications or AI engineers, right, which are associated with the artificial intelligence. So always remember that the last goal or the final goal of the AI application is was to make the machine to think without the human intervention, to take the decisions without the human intervention. So we'll be seeing the lots of example based on see this. So this is our main goal. So this you can consider as a superset of everything, and that's why I have represented in one Venn circle. Now, if we talk about the machine learning, so machine learning considered to be the subset of this AI. Okay, it is considered to be subset of AI. That's why I have drawn this inside the AI. Okay, this is ML. Machine learning. So what machine learning has? Machine learning has statistics tools to explore and they analyze the data, as well as the machine learning have different techniques to do the learning and training. Okay, so for example, it can give the ability to the machine to learn by itself, and then so from our side we can give the training to the machine, right? A machine will be able to learn. So there are different techniques like there is a supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. So these are the basic three techniques by which in the machine learning we can give the learning to the machine. So what do you mean by this? Let me go to this notepad. Okay. So first one is supervised learning. So what do you mean by supervised learning? So whenever a learning takes place, first of all, let's understand what do you mean by learning. Okay, this is the main thing. What do you mean by learning? First of all, so learning means what? There should be permanent change in the behavior. A permanent change in the behavior. In the behavior. So when there is a permanent change in the behavior, then only we can say now the person has learned. See, if any person is learning anything, and today he has learned, and tomorrow he will forget, right? And after day after tomorrow also he don't know anything, right? So if he is forgetting, then there is no permanent change in the behavior. Then that means that person has not learned, right? If we are teaching anything, let's say, or whenever, or he is doing, or he is learning any particular skill, and if there is not permanent change in the behavior, that means that person has not learned, right? So if the person has learned it, then there will be definitely a permanent change in the behavior, and that is called as what? The learning. So learning can be of different types, like supervised learning, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning. In the supervised learning, what happens? The learning take place in the presence of supervisor. Okay, so just remember this, in the presence of supervisor. So for example, now all of you have joined this particular meet, right? Now I am training all of you, and you are learning in the presence of mind. So if I'll give any problem to all of you, then you will be able to solve it. And if you make any mistake, I can observe that, and I can comment on that, right? So you can correct that particular mistake, and then you can solve in a correct way. So that means what? One supervisor is there who is observing you, and you are learning in the presence of the supervisor. So in a similar way, let's say suppose supervisor is not there, you are just simply learning from my video lecture, that's it, or from this any cd, okay? So or from the youtube. So there won't be, the supervisor will not be there to correct you. So if there is nobody is there to observe you, then that means the learning is taking place unsupervised way. That means the supervisor is absent over there. So in this particular scenario, it will be like this. Here we will be giving the inputs. This is the machine learning model, and it will give the output. Now this particular output we will compare with the desired output. If there will be error, so that error will be calculated. That error will be calculated. That will be fed over here. Okay, or you can say that will be fed to the machine learning model. So that will be given to the machine learning model so that it can correct itself. So how it will going to correct itself? See, we are not dealing with the deep learning where you will understand basically the neuron architecture first of all. Okay, neuron architecture, the way the different neurons are there in our brain, right? Similarly, the in the artificial neural network also the neuron architecture is there, and based on that, how the neurons are being connected, or how they will going to learn it in a similar way. There are different kinds of structures available, right? And that is at the deep learning level. So we are not learning the neuron architecture. I'm just giving you the block diagram, let's say, how the supervised learning will take place. So supervised learning will take place in the presence of the supervisor. Now, where is the supervisor is present? For example, here we have given the inputs and it will produce the output. Now we at the same time we know the desired output also. So the desired output should be this one. So definitely there will be some mismatch between the output and the desired output. There is no mismatch, that means there is no error at all. So machine learning model will not do anything. But if there is an error, then definitely it will have to do certain kind of adjustment in its weights, in its connection. And depending on that, it will again going to produce the output, and then again it will match with the desired output. So it's like it's happening in the presence of the supervisor. Normally, this kind of techniques are used where the inputs in this technique, inputs and output will be known. Okay, will be known. So it's like you'll be having the pair of the input and output. Okay, pair of the input and output will be already present, and then we can give the training to the machine learning. For example, for this particular set of inputs, what will be the output? So this will be known in advance in supervised learning. So remember this thing. Normally, this kind of techniques are used for the classification purposes. Okay, where we can classify the inputs to different classes. In a similar way, there is one technique, unsupervised learning. Unsupervised learning. In the unsupervised learning, there will not be supervisor present, right? And here in the supervised learning, we require input and output pair. Input and output pair must be there before the training. But here only the input is there. Here only the input is there. Output is not present. Only input is there. And based on the input patterns and everything, the machine learning model itself will going to extract the patterns from the inputs, and depending on that, it will going to make the cluster, right? So here the output will not be labeled. In this case, both input and output will be present, but here only the input will be present. Output will not be there in the unsupervised. Second thing, this will happen by itself. There won't be any supervisor present. Similarly, in the reinforcement learning, what happens? Sometimes we don't have the full information about the input as well as the output. Let's say we are having the partial information regarding the input set, and similarly the partial information regarding the output set. Some mixed kind of data is there. We can use the reinforcement learning where it is also one of the kind of variety of the supervised, but we cannot say exactly it's a supervised learning. Here what happens, in place of correcting it, it will give you the rewards, okay, and the punishment kind of strategy. So for example, if the output is not proper, it can tell you that your output is only 50% correct or 30% correct, right? And it may give you certain kind of rewards in that one. And so the critics information will be available in the reinforcement learning. So normally reinforcement learning is utilized when we are having the partial information regarding the input set and the output set. So don't worry about all these things, right? I just explained you because it came over there. So just remember that what you have to remember this thing, that in machine learning, basically these kind of things are there, like supervised learning, unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning, where the machine learning model can deploy one of the kind of strategies like supervised learning or unsupervised learning. They will going to give the training to the machine, and based on that, the machine will going to have this kind of learning capability. And once the machine is learned and trained, then definitely that the machine will be able to perform the task which will be given to the machine, right? So this is what the machine learning model will have. So this is also the subset of the AI. AI is what considered as a superset. Again, our main goal is what? Our main aim is to have the AI application where a machine by itself will be able to take the decision. Machine itself will be able to able to think, where the human intervention will not be there. If you see the deep learning,
So I have one question over here.
yes.
So how is predictive analysis different from machine learning?
See, machine learning is the whole entire topic, right? And in the machine learning, the predictive analysis also comes. It's not different. It's one of the part of the machine learning only.
Okay, so machine learning, you will be doing it to the hardware part or to the software part that an individual uses?
Here we are not talking about anything about the hardware part. Okay, hardware part will only come into the picture where you are having the data for the collection purposes. I'll come to that one part.
Okay.
And if any output is given, let's say if you want to control anything, controller or certain kind of thing, then the hardware part will be implemented, where really you will have to supply the voltage and all, and then you want to connect to the hardware. Otherwise, here whatever we are talking about is everything on the software basis, right? Everything on the software basis, and all the things which we will be analyzing, all the soft things we are having. Clear? So we are not talking about the hardware parts.
Okay, so it will give an input to the hardware to do whatever is needed to stop
Yes.
the-
For example, let's say I have designed one machine learning application, right? And where depending on the, see what we have one company, let's say, and in that company all the people data is being analyzed depending on their daily routine and all. So let's say some people are having high sugar, right? If they drink coffee or tea, then whenever they go to the machine, in that the sugar should be added in very little amount, or no sugar should be added, because the machine knows that that particular person is drinking a lot of tea or coffee, and he may face diabetic kind of issue. So now here the hardware may come into picture, because we see the software part is what we have already trained the machine, we have already given all the training and everything. Now based on that the output is known. So if that particular person will come, sugar will not be added to the coffee or the tea of that particular person. That's it. So this kind of strategy we can deploy where the hardware may come into the picture. Clear?
So same in the case of the driverless car. If
Yeah,
suppose
yeah,
the car is going-
I'll show that one. That example is there.
okay.
We'll be seeing lot of example. Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yes.
Mr. Omkar, can you put the first slide regarding the Venn diagram? First slide.
Yes.
First slide.
This one only
Yeah,
the
thank
first slide. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. AI without human. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thanks. So don't worry about writing, okay? Because entire lecture I'll be giving, right? And I forgot to tell you, see, I have this my channel. So somebody is asking still permission. Wait, I'll just join. See what happens whenever I'm explaining, right? So I'm not on this particular link. I mean on the Gmeet link. So I'm not aware if you are late and you are asking the permission. So whenever I just want to demonstrate anything, then I come to know that yeah, I mean, few people are still asking. So it's okay, five minutes late. It's okay, 5-10 minutes, but try to join in on a proper time, because every day at 1 p.m. sharp I will directly start. Okay, so please try to join on that particular time, so that I'll not have to bother who is asking again of the permission for this one. Okay. What I was telling that I have this my channel where you will find that this data science playlist is there, right? And in this particular playlist, most of things, I mean this kind of workshop also which I have conducted, those links are also present in this particular link, right? As well as whatever recording now I'll be doing, that will also be, I'll be putting in this only, right? For example, if you see first installation of R on Windows, R Studio installation on Windows, so these links I'll be giving you after this particular theory lecture. I'll be demonstrating you how to install and how to do all those things, and then at the end I'll give you this link, so you can visit this particular data science with R on my channel. I'll give you the link in the chat box, and so that whenever we will miss, you can directly see the content from here also. Second thing, our live lecture recording also I will going to put over here only, so whenever you will have the time and you are practicing it, you can always see. So no need to write, I mean we just rewind and you can just see. Just focus now whatever I am teaching currently.
PPT also will be sharing, right?
Yes, everything.
Okay,
See,
okay.
not even a single thing I keep with me. Whatever is possible from me, I will share each and everything. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
How do we get to the link? Or your channel?
Yeah, I'll put in the chat box, as well as I'll give in the WhatsApp also. Okay, later.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Very kind of you.
Okay. So now let's come to the deep learning. So how this deep learning is different from this machine learning. So deep learning can also be considered as the subset of the machine learning, and both in turn are the subset of the AI, which was our final goal to make the AI application. So in deep learning, we talk at the level of multi-neural network architecture, where we talk about the neurons and all, and how we will going to make the neuron architecture. So you can just see that whenever we have any artificial neural network, and if it consists of lots of hidden layers in that can be termed as the deep learning, right? In the deep learning at now, you can just consider that there are multiple techniques available. Out of that, three are there, three which I've listed over here just to give you the information regarding that. One is the area is called as artificial neural network. Second is called as convolutional neural network, and third is called as recurrent neural network. So where these techniques can be applied, for example, artificial neural network you can apply where you are having a numerical kind of stuff, numerical kind of data, and you want to analyze it. There you can have this artificial neural network. Convolutional neural network you can apply where you have the images and the videos kind of data. There you can apply the convolutional neural network. And third, the recurrent neural network you can apply where you have the time series kind of data. Time series means what? It's dependent on the time also. For example, you have the stock market data, right? Or so these kind of things are there where the time is important. So based on the time, if you're dealing anything, there you can use the recurrent neural network model. So just remember at now that artificial neural network simply you can apply where simple numerical kind of stuffs are there, and if you want to give the training and all, you can use the artificial neural network. If you have the videos and images kind of data, right, you can apply the CNN kind of CNN, that is a convolutional neural network. Just wait, I'll close the doors. Noise is coming.
I'm not getting audio. Hello, Mr. Yadav. I'm not getting the audio. No audio.
Sir, there is no audio.
Om Prakash, there is no audio.
Mr. Om Prakash is it's hanging.
I think he left.
Yeah. No, I just went to close the door. That's it.
Okay.
A noise was coming. Okay. So we were dealing about this. All of you can hear me, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
So we were dealing about this deep learning, which is also treated as the subset of the machine learning and the AI learning. Just remember that whenever we deal with the deep learning, we talk about the multi-neural network architecture. We talk about the neuron architecture. Different layers are present in that one: hidden layers, input layers, and the output layers. There are multiple hidden layers are involved in that. Okay, and certain scenarios are there, like where we can use the artificial neural network, where we can use the convolutional neural network, and where we can use the recurrent neural network. So all these things will be coming whenever you will be learning about the deep learning and machine learning in very detail.
One question, sir.
Yeah.
So, are we saying here that the AI is dependent on the ML and
Yes,
deep learning?
definitely. Yes.
Without
Definitely.
ML and DL, we cannot have the AI model built.
We can have, but if you want to give self-learning capability and everything, then definitely we have to deploy ML and DL and all. Okay. A very simple application can also be built in AI where it will not have that kind of capability. But if we want to give all this capability, AI depends on this ML and DL.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now where this data science come into picture? So see, data scientists, these people, they work on all these areas. Okay. Even we can apply on the deep learning, we can apply on the ML, right? Even on the AI as a whole. So if you see here, the data scientist people have this major role, and it can be treated as a separate area only where it works on all the different levels. So it basically knows about deep learning also, ML also, right? AI also, right? It can intersect with all the areas. So data scientist applies all these techniques like ML, DL, mathematical tools like statistics, probability, linear algebra, differential calculus, etc. It will going to apply all these different techniques, and then it will be able to analyze the data, as well as if the demands is there, like it can train the model with the model which will going to predict in the future also, right? So all this stuff. So he is aware of how to give the training. He is aware of how to do the prediction or even the past analysis. So all these tasks here, the data scientist is, I mean, he knows all these basically techniques. So at this particular point, what was our aim? Our aim was to make the AI as an application where it depends on all these basically the techniques. So if we don't know about this ML, DNA data scientist, then I mean, in a sudden we cannot develop this AI application. So we have to go through all these techniques, and whenever you will find any particular AI course, they will first going to teach you all these things only, right? You should be aware of this ML, DL and all. See, if I'm doing anything ML stuff or DL stuff, right, and if I have trained any particular machine model, then definitely that has become as an AI application, right? So now we'll be seeing some of the examples also where all these things will be clear to you. Before that, there is one more difference which is remaining. So for example, suppose data engineer is there and the data analyst is there, right, and data scientist is there. So these terms are also very frequently used, and people may get confused that why we are having these three different roles. Like in one company only you might find three different roles, like data engineer, the data analyst, and then data scientist. So where exactly these people come into picture, why three different roles are there? So let's study about this also. So I'll go to this note. So see here what happens in data science project. In data science project. So data science project, we require the data. Okay, we require first the data. Now to get this particular data, how we can get the data? So let's say suppose I'm not having the data. So what we can do? We can have some IoT devices, right, which can keep collecting the data, and which can store the data on our server, or let's say on the cloud. So IoT devices we can have, or we can have third party tools, right? From there also we can collect the data, or we can have certain API. Many APIs are there on the website which will give you the data, and they might be free or they might be paid also, right? But if we pay a certain amount of money to them, they will provide the data from their APIs. So we can collect the data through the surveys. We can also conduct the surveys, right, through the surveys. Then we can have the IoT devices. With the IoT devices we can collect the data. We can use the third party tools. Okay, third party tools. We can also have APIs. On the online you will find lots of APIs. For example, let's say a very simple example, like weather prediction I want to do, then I can have the weather prediction APIs. I can search in the Google and I'll simply have to call that particular function. I'll get the data regarding that weather prediction. So like this, there are lots of APIs are present which will give you a lot of information or a lot of data to you directly. So I can gather all this information, all this data. Now whose responsibility is doing all these things? Okay, basically whose responsibility is doing all these things, how to collect the data, how to manage this data. So there is one block is there. Let's say here data warehouse will be there, right? Data warehouse where all the data will be kept and managed in of the company. So this task will be done by the data engineer, where your data will be maintained in the data warehouse, right? And from where the data engineer can collect the data from, through the surveys, through the IoT devices, APIs, third-party tools, a lot of different strategies he can apply over there, and he can collect the data and he can maintain the data in the data warehouse. The whole responsibility of these things will be what to the data engineer. Okay. Now the second thing, Once the data is collected, then the data engineer will provide this particular data to the other people who are there in the pipeline, right? So this project will flow in the pipeline. So after this, there comes, let's say, exploratory data analysis. Exploratory data analysis. Now, exploratory data analysis means what? The data will be provided from the data warehouse by the data engineers, right? Now, on this particular data, we have to do what? We have to do the analysis, and this analysis can be done with the help of visualization also. So, visualization, different visualization technique can also be applied to view the data, right, as well as to find out the analysis of this particular data. Who will going to do? Basically, there is a data analyst available, data analyst, and they may use different visualization techniques also, but the basic idea is the data, once they will get on that particular data, they will going to do the analysis, and they will, what they will do, they will prepare the report. Okay, and then that report can be presented to the stakeholders, and the different problems which are associated with that particular thing can be told to the stakeholders. So that is the responsibility of data analyst, who will going to analyze the data and who will going to prepare the report. Different visualization technique can also be applied in that one. Now, after this, what? Once this is also done, then there is a next step, that is model creation. Model creation. So model creation means what? Now we will going to create one model or one machine by training and all. We will give the training. Now training can be, for example, we have the data. So with the entire data, we can divide into two parts. One is testing part and second is training part. One is testing part and second is training part. So training set, let's say, and testing set. So training set data we can use for training our machine, and the testing set data we can use for the testing purpose at the end. So simply what, after this particular exploratory data analysis, there is a part which is called a model creation, where the model will be created by testing, by training the data, by training that particular machine with the training data set, and by testing data set at the end to test that particular machine whether it's working properly or not. After model creation, then model will be deployed. So after this, there is a stage of model deployment or model development, you can say. Let's say deployment, I'm saying. So basically these tasks, and from here, right, the data scientist can operate from this particular level, up to here till model deployment. So data scientist knows about exploratory data analysis also, he knows about model creation, he knows about model deployment, so he can work on all these different layers, whereas the data analyst works only this particular layer, right? He is not aware of how to create the model, how to deploy it, all this stuff he is not aware of that one, right? Whereas the data scientist, typically he knows about all these different stages. So hence he will find a lot of different job roles like data engineer, data analyst, and data scientist, which are more commonly used, and people don't know the exact difference between this one. This is what the difference. But if in a company, suppose the company is not having data scientists, they are having only the data analysts, and they are telling them to do the job of this one also, it's up to the company, right? And we know that if we are there in a company and we have to perform the multi-skill job, then once the company will tell, definitely we have to do that thing. But this is what the basic difference about data scientist, data engineer, and data analyst.
So one question in this, the
Yeah.
model creation you spoke about.
Model creation, sorry, I didn't get you. Model
So the
creation.
model creation, model deployment, you mean to say understanding the pattern what is following and then creating an script for it? You mean to say that?
Say one simple example I can give. Let's say, suppose I'm having the data of entire city, let's say Mumbai, right? Everyday data I'm having. So it's like what is the temperature, what is the humidity, and all these things I'm recording, right? I'm having the Excel file, that particular data, lots of data. Now I'm just having the simple I want to develop one model, right? See, this is the analysis part will be done by the analyst. Now the next part is what I want to develop one machine or one software, or let's say one model which will going to predict whether today it will going to rain or not. right? So that we can advise people who are there to take certain precaution, right? So that is called as the model. Now how that model will be built, so I am having this particular data. What I'll do, certain part of this data I'll divide into the training part. Let's say this particular part will be for the training purpose, and this particular part will be for the testing purpose. So it's like if you have the 100% of data, let's say, so 80% of the data is used for the training purpose, okay, and 20% of data you should keep for the testing purpose, so that you can modify whether your model is working properly or not. Now what we will do, we will use this training data, we will going to train our machine with different algorithms are available, right? Obviously we're going to train that particular model, and then we will see that the model automatically will going to predict certain things. And what we will do, we will then use the testing set to check whether our model is predicting accurately or not, and then after that we can deploy the model. So this is what the model creation and model deployment. So in that, a lots of algorithm needs to be written, and they needs to be implemented or not, which about this data analysts they don't know, but data scientists they learn all those things. That's why this also comes under the machine learning and deep learning part. That's why I told you that data scientists they work on all those three, all different layers. Whether this is clear to you? So
Yeah,
this
it is
prediction, yeah. So the model will be like, it will be a prediction of that rain, whether it will happen or not, and that training and testing, all those parts will be done by the data scientist. Okay. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, this
Yeah.
people predict this pandemic second wave, third wave. So it is done on the same analysis.
Yes. So we'll be having the data, right? And based on that, the data scientist will be able to predict. For example, let's say I'm having the data of the company, and I want to see whether in the future what will be the revenue of my data, or what will be my sales forecast. So obviously, depending on the data record, the data scientist will going to train the machine, and then the machine will be able to predict that this will be the forecast of the sales or the forecast of the revenue, or whether the next pandemic will be there or not. So this kind of prediction, this is called as the predictive analysis, and which can be done easily in this one.
Okay, so algorithm needs to be built in, or there are already some algorithms that are there in place?
Already algorithms are there, just we need to learn them and we need to deploy. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And from our side, if we want to do modification, obviously we can do so. In that way, if you are pursuing a PhD or you want to do the research, so definitely you can, for example, if any algorithm is there, let's say, let's consider that Newton's law is there. So if I want to modify that particular Newton's law, definitely that will become my law, right? So I can publish that particular law, and then in that way I can have my PhD also, and I can publish the paper also. So if you are doing any research work, definitely if you are really doing any improvement in that particular algorithm, depending on your application, you can always publish the paper, and you can show that you have done certain improvement in that particular algorithm, and whatever results you are getting that are far better than that particular the algorithm which earlier it was there. So in that way you can show the improvements. That's available, right? If you don't want to do anything, I mean, algorithms are there, you can just simply read those algorithms, and combination of algorithms also you can use. Just you need to see whether you are getting the accurate results or not. That is our main goal. Our model should be accurate. That is the main criteria.
Are these algorithms are free of charge, or they are patented, or they are branded by some company, and we need to, if we need to deploy, we need to purchase them, is something like that?
No. The algorithms, you can use them as a free, right? And see, if it is a patented, if it is not available publicly, then definitely if you want to use that particular algorithm, you will have to pay. But most of these algorithms are freely available to everybody. You can deploy, you can study them, and you can just implement them simply, right? So no need to pay anything. For example, tomorrow if you'll go and depending on your case studies, you have developed your own application, your algorithm, you don't want to give that algorithm to anybody, right? So definitely if somebody wants your algorithm, then definitely will going to charge, right? For example, many companies are there like Apple or not, from by which exact algorithm they are working, and they are fine tuning their applications and all, they might be not exposing to others, right? So and that is true also, otherwise every company will become that like that only, because whatever they are having the insights, if they will keep on sharing. So if those kind of things are there, definitely then if we want to utilize, we will have to pay them, right?
I think it comes in the regime of IPR.
Yeah, now see nowadays many company are doing this kind of thing also. Like they are having the ready machine model built and everything. We just simply need to purchase from those company, and simply we can do our job. So these kind of things are also now running in the market, where a lot of stuff, I mean, lots of machine models are already built, and then simply we have to take them from the rent by the rent, or we have to pay certain services fees, and then they will give us the machine model, and we can, I mean, we can save our, see what happens. No, the main problem is what, first of all, we should have the large amount of data, and second thing, for the training purposes and all things, we will have to spend the time, a lot of time, and for the this testing purposes. And second thing, our model should be trained on a huge amount of data. If very low amount of data we have trained, then a lot of problem may arise, right? So what these companies do, they already have prepared such kind of model, and that is the trained model based on the vast I mean, the samples they have the data points, and based on that they have already trained models. So now companies, they don't what they do now normally, because such a huge trained model is already available, why not to take that model, right? We can save our time, we can save all this training stuff, testing stuff, and all those things, and accurate model we can buy from them, and we can simply utilize. So these kind of things are also started nowadays in the market. Okay.
Om Prakash, just one small
Yeah.
clarification.
Yes.
This data warehouse and data dump are one and same.
Yes, you can say that it's same. In the warehouse only we dump the data, right? Only thing, if you are organizing that data in a proper way, so that is the responsibility of the data engineer. Okay.
Understand. The data
Yeah.
mining, what are data mining and data analysis one and same, or it is different?
Data mining also will mine the data, and it will try to find out I mean, it will also get the internal details of that particular data. But in the data mining, all these strategies will not be deployed like the data scientist, where we can do the prediction, we can give the past history, we can do all these things, and training and testing, all these things will not be done in that particular data mining. Only simply the analysis. So you can say that data analyst and data mining will be more similar to each other.
Okay, I got it. I think because these are the words which you hear every day.
Yes. That's what.
I
That's
just
why
want to correlate with your theory. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
So that's why I try to cover all those things so that it will be clear. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. So we were on this again. Just quickly, I'll let you know about this. We were dealing about AI, ML, DL, data science differences. I started with the AI, which was our final goal. Then we went to ML, which was the subset of AI itself, right? And it works on these different basic techniques like supervised learning and supervised reinforcement. Then deep learning we study, where it talks about the multi-neuron network architecture. We have different techniques like artificial neural network, CNN, RNN. In different scenarios, different technique can be utilized. For example, for images and videos, you can develop CNN. CNN, for example, you have the application of object detection. For example, if you go in the mall, if any blind person is there and he have that kind of instrument, he will just simply point that particular instrument, or let's say mobile, to um, whatever things he want to buy. The mobile will sound that this is a tea packet, or this is a powder packet, or whatever it's there, right? So that is that kind of object detection. Even the object detection is implemented in the automatic driving car also. For example, the car will move on the road, and then whatever things are coming in front of that car, the car will be able to detect which kind of object is there. So that kind of stuff can be done in the CNN by using this convolutional neural network. Then in the RNN, different strategies are there, and that can be used for the market data analysis and all, where the time series data is very important, right? Where you can also have this RNN in the satellite launch and all, right? Where this is time factor is very important. So then we went ahead with this data engineer, data analyst, and data scientist. Okay. Now let's come to a little bit introduction about AI. So during the World War II in 1939-1945, this came into existence first, where Alan Turing Alan Turing, one of the scientists, was there, and he played very important role in this particular field. So during the World War II, what happened when the first computer was made? Its main purpose was to break the German communication. So German used to communicate with the certain coded language, right? And the main purpose of that particular computer is to break that German communication in that era. So he's the Alan Turing, and he was basically a mathematician, but he had given a lot of theories in this AI also, and he has done a lot of contribution in this. In fact, his major role was there in that World War II also. So what he did uh, in um in 1950, somewhere around 1950, he proposed one paper. In that paper, he asked one question that can machine think? Can machine things? And in 1950 he asked, right? And still we are dealing with the same thing. We are developing the machine, which the machine will be able to think like a human beings without human intervention. The machine will be able to take the decisions, right? So what all these things we are expecting nowadays, and which he asked, this particular question was asked by him in well ahead of the time in 1950 only. Okay. uh, so one thing I forgot to tell you that this course will be done. I mean, every Saturday and Sunday, this course will be done in 2 sessions. So, for example, the session will be from 1 to 2:30, first session, and then 1 hour gap I have kept every day. I mean, on the Saturday and Sunday, and then after that, 3:30 to 5, the second session will be there. So it's already 2:30. But today I'll just give half an hour break because I have some work at the end. So by 4:30 I will leave. So what I request all of you that you just take a half an hour break, and let's say by 3 o'clock again we will join back to the same link. Okay, I will not close this link, and I'll keep this particular link open only. And let's take half an hour break, and then again we'll come to the same thing. Yes, all of you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Agreed. Agreed. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll just stop the first session recording. So in a similar way, I'll be sharing at the end, like first session and second session, and the recording of that one. Okay. So I'll just stop this one so that the one recording will be over.